Every time you fail at something, your mind takes a note, not to help you improve, to remind you what you're capable of. And the next time you stand at the same edge, it plays those notes back, not as a warning, as a verdict. Haikyuu has a character who lived inside that verdict for an entire arc, and what he taught me about it changed the way I understood what it actually means to be the one everyone is counting on. Azumane Asahi from Haikyuu was the first character that made me realize I wasn't afraid of trying. I was afraid of what my failures would cost the people who never once questioned whether I could. Asahi isn't afraid of being the one assigned to spike the ball. What terrifies him is the weight of every pass, every set, every teammate's effort that traveled through the play to reach his hands, and what it means for all of them if he doesn't score from it. And when the block rises up, it doesn't just feel like a lost point. It feels like a debt he failed to repay. And if you're watching this, I think you felt that exact weight before, not on a volleyball court. In the life you're quietly trying to build while the people who believe in you choose to say nothing, because they already know you'll figure it out. I've tried a lot of things before this. Online income streams, projects, ideas I genuinely believed in. And I succeeded at absolutely none of them. Every single one ended the same way: burnout, disappointment, and a quiet confirmation that maybe this just wasn't something I was built for. But the part that stayed with me wasn't the failure itself. It was what that failure meant for the people around me. The ones who never questioned my choices. The ones who watched me try and lose and try again without ever once pulling me aside to ask if I knew what I was doing. That silence wasn't indifference. It was the heaviest form of trust I've ever been given, and I felt every gram of it. When I decided to start this channel, I didn't tell anyone. I just opened my laptop and started working. And the people around me saw it happening. They saw the late hours, the research, the drafts, and they said nothing. Not because they didn't notice, because they already knew. And that knowing, that quiet, unspoken certainty they had in me that I didn't yet have in myself, was the thing I felt most responsible for not wasting. That's the weight Asahi carries. Not the fear of the block, the fear of wasting what his teammates gave him to get the ball to his hands. Azumane Asahi is built like the last person you'd expect to have a fragile relationship with failure. He's tall, physically imposing, and by every visible measure, he looks like someone who was born to be exactly where he is at the end of the play, with the ball in his hands. But Haikyuu does something deliberate with that image. It gives the most physically intimidating player on the court the most psychologically precise form of anxiety in the entire series. Asahi believes that the spike is the end of the sequence, that the rally lives or dies the moment the ball leaves his hand. If he scores, he redeems every pass, every set, every movement his teammates made to put him in that position. If he doesn't, if the block rises up and the ball dies, then all of it was wasted. Every effort his teammates made becomes a debt he failed to repay. That is his equation, and it is completely structurally wrong. The moment that makes this undeniable happens not during a match, but after one. After Karasuno's defeat against Tech, Nishinoya is furious with himself, blaming his inability to receive the blocked balls as the reason they lost. And Asahi stops him, not to comfort him, to correct him. He tells Nishinoya that his receives wouldn't have mattered anyway, because even if the ball came back, Asahi couldn't have scored from it. He tells Sugawara that every set sent his way was wasted, because he was the one who couldn't make them count. That moment wasn't Asahi being hard on himself. It's about what he genuinely believes the ace position demands. And what it costs, Asahi isn't sharing the weight he's refusing to. Because in his equation, the ace absorbs the loss entirely, or the position means nothing. And the terrifying thing about that logic is how reasonable it sounds. He was the one assigned to finish the play. He didn't finish it. What else is there to say? What Asahi misses, what his equation leaves out entirely, is what Nishinoya was doing while he was gone. While Asahi had left the team, consumed by the weight of a loss he'd claimed as entirely his own, Nishinoya was on the floor practicing block follows. receiving balls off blocked spikes, building an answer to a problem Asahi had already decided was unsolvable. The team never accepted his equation. They were already constructing the next play around his failure before he even came back to swing again. That's the part that changes everything. The ace was never the end of the sequence. He was always just one point in a cycle that his teammates never stopped running. Most people who feel the weight of responsibility the way Asahi does aren't dramatic about it. They don't announce it. They just quietly absorb every outcome as a personal verdict. Every missed deadline, every failed attempt, every moment they couldn't deliver what was expected of them. And the heavier it gets, the more convinced they become that the weight is theirs alone to carry. That's not weakness. That's what happens when you care deeply about the people whose efforts made your position possible. But here's what that weight does when you carry it alone for too long. It blinds you, not to the pressure. You feel that more clearly than ever. It blinds you to the people who never stopped building around you while you were busy trying to hold everything up by yourself. The ones who saw you struggle and didn't intervene. Not because they gave up, but because they were already on the floor practicing block follows. Already constructing the next play. Already certain that the cycle wasn't over just because this particular swing didn't land. Asahi's false equation, that the ace is the sole point of failure, is one most people carry without ever naming it. You've been the one assigned to finish something important. A project, a goal, a version of yourself that other people have already decided they believe in. And every time it doesn't land the way you needed it to, you absorb the entire loss. You don't just feel like you failed. You feel like you failed them. And that distinction between failing and failing them is exactly what makes the weight feel impossible to put down. What Asahi teaches is not that the pressure goes away, it's that the pressure was never the complete picture. You are not the sole determiner of whether the play succeeds. You are the conduit, the point where everyone's effort becomes visible. And when the block rises up, the rally doesn't end. It just continues through the people who are already building around you, not just watching you take flight. Maybe the people around you were never keeping score the way you were. Maybe while you were busy tallying every missed swing, every failed attempt, every moment you couldn't deliver, they were already on the floor, quietly building the next play. Not because they didn't see you fall, because they never once believed the fall was the end of it. Someone in your life already decided that. They just never felt the need to tell you.